From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good Wednesday morning. It's 6 o'clock. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. Thank you for getting your day started with us.
And I'm Ed McIntosh as we're up and rolling, and temperatures are going to be close to average today, similar to where they were yesterday, but with sunshine, it will take a little bit of the edge off as we get into the afternoon. This morning, we're starting at 21. Southwest wind, though, is making it feel like the single digits, so make sure you dress for the weather when you step out because you will feel the chill. Temperatures are now in the single digits in Butte at 6, but now 10 in Dillon, looking at 14, the current reading in both Livingston and Miles City. 15 for you in Sheridan and Cody. Your latest reading just updated to 17 degrees. There is a little wind down the east slopes, but most of it's fairly high up ridgetop winds. Temperatures in southern Montana and northern Wyoming are starting off into the teens and 20s. And by the afternoon, we're going to be up to about typical readings this time of the year. We normally be 38 is the average high. Might make the low 40s for a high here in Billings today. A little bit of a wind in the afternoon, but again, that sun will take some of the edge off. And today we are talking about National Package Protection Day.
Yes, 'tis the season for Grinches, and so we're watching one of those Ring doorbell videos where the homeowner sets up a trap to scare off the would-be porch pirate, and he slips and falls, and so. Gosh, what are why? Yeah. Why do you think you're entitled to go up to someone's steps and she just got scared and walked away?
Yep. Okay. Enough of that.
Yeah. Why do you think you're in the right to do this? Just to go take someone's package? So, this makes me angry.
I could see that.
Go ahead and try to steal something from my
one more.
steps.
Oh, there's a package up there. I'm gonna go help myself.
Yeah. Just casually mosey on over and go to grab it. And
apparently, I mean, I can see why they put the trap out there because obviously, I mean, this is quite a few times that somebody's walking by deciding they can take a package.
Yeah, it looks like a high pedestrian area, so yeah, lots of traffic there. No, I guess the good thing about, working from home now is a lot of people are home, so when that package does arrive at the front door, you can just head out and grab it right away. So that's a plus side, right?
I guess so.
Defend against porch pirates. Yeah. All right. Well, I can just go on and on about talking about this topic, so I better just get on to the news now. Yes.
Deep breath in. Here we go.
Transition now. All right. Thanks, Ed. We start with the latest on the 2020 presidential election. The head of the Justice Department is the latest government official to say there has not been any evidence of widespread voter fraud. This as President Trump and his campaign continue to challenge election results. CBS's Deborah Alfarone has more, plus details about the concern one Georgia Republican has about the election rhetoric.
Attorney General William Barr told the Associated Press the Justice Department has not seen fraud on a scale that could have affected a different outcome in the election.
This election was a fraud.
For Barr, it's a rare break from President Trump, who still refuses to concede to Joe Biden.
We love you!
Video taken by a guest at the White House Christmas party last night shows President Trump telling his supporters he's still fighting and teased a run in 2024.
It's been an amazing 4 years. We're trying to do another 4 years, otherwise I'll see you in 4 years.
The DOJ is also looking into a bribery for pardon scheme where individuals tried to lobby White House officials for a presidential pardon. Last night, a federal judge released 20 pages of court documents that point to a, quote, secret lobbying scheme. But since the documents are heavily redacted, little more is publicly known. The DOJ tells CBS News no government officials are currently targeted in the investigation.
It has to stop.
In Georgia, a top Republican official worries rhetoric around the election is getting dangerous. Gabriel Sterling says election workers have received death threats from people who believe the vote was rigged.
Someone's going to get hurt, someone's going to get shot, someone's going to get killed. Mr. President, you have not condemned these actions or this language.
Some Republicans fear the president's attacks could affect voter turnout in the 2 runoff Senate races next month. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, Washington.
And those 2 Senate races will decide who controls the Senate for at least the first 2 years of the Biden presidency. The concern is that some people who voted for the Republican senators the first time around won't come out in January if they think their vote won't count. President-elect Joe Biden publicly introduced his economic team yesterday. The group includes former Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen. She's now Biden's nominee for Treasury Secretary. Yellen promised to act quickly to help Americans who've been financially impacted by the pandemic. She'll be the first woman to serve as Treasury Secretary. Now closer to home, a sad end to a missing persons case we've been following for more than a month. Officials report the body discovered along the Yellowstone River is identified as 22-year-old Amelia Brooks. A hunter found the body on Saturday near Arrow Island Park. An autopsy found no signs of foul play. Brooks was last seen on October 13th at her home in the Billings Heights. Law enforcement, friends, and family have been searching for her ever since. Now a GoFundMe page is set up to help with her funeral costs. You can find it in this story at ktvq.com. In crime news, a suspect is in the hospital this morning, tasered by police after reaching for his gun during a traffic stop downtown. 42-year-old Larry Rondeau was pulled over yesterday evening for a stolen license plate. When an officer approached the vehicle on the 1400 block of First Avenue North, Rondeau got out of his car. That's when police say he reached for a gun in a shoulder holster and an officer deployed his taser. Rondeau was eventually taken into custody after a struggle. The officer involved was treated for an injured hand. Now we go to Belgrade, where a suspect is in custody for shooting at police called to a home for reports of a disturbance. MTN's Gabby Crevitt brings us the details of the situation that could have been a lot worse.
Belgrade's chief of police said it all started Monday evening around 10:30 p.m. with reports of a disturbance. Yelling, screaming, and sounds of breaking glass were heard at a fourplex apartment unit off of Hoffman Street, directly across from an entrance of Belgrade High School. 2 responding police officers showed up and heard gunshots. The officers ran and used their car as a barricade.
Then more shots came out. The vehicle was struck with the officers behind it. The officers did not return fire, as there was no clear shooting lanes and nothing like that. And then the person never came out of the house. It was out windows and things.
Chief Clark says the standoff lasted a while and then a fire started from inside the building. The scene remains under heavy investigation.
We don't know the exact number of rounds that were fired. We do know there were several rounds fired. There are homes in the area. We had to evacuate, people out of that fourplex and get them places to stay.
No officers, neighbors, or witnesses were injured as a result of the standoff.
So it went as well as it could have, with nobody being injured. There was some displaced people, which is, unfortunate, but nobody was hurt. And so now we just got the long process of getting all the evidence to find out why did this happen, do a lot of interviews with people that, could maybe give us insight as what led up to it, things like that. So.
And we don't have any additional details right now about the suspect. However, we do know that he did sustain some minor injuries and was treated at Bozeman Health Deaconess Hospital and is now being held at the detention center in Bozeman. We'll continue to keep you updated on all the details of the story as they become available. Reporting in Belgrade, Gabby Crevitt, MTN News.
Belgrade PD says they have received a warrant to search inside the complex. And things are back to normal for residents of one Bozeman neighborhood after they spent Tuesday sheltered in place as authorities searched for a suspect. Gallatin County Sheriff's deputies were called to an incident involving a weapon. When they arrived, the deputies made the decision to lock the area down out of safety. They were able to take a man into custody and no one was hurt. There's more sobering statistics from the COVID-19 pandemic. November was the worst month yet across the state and here in Yellowstone County. 28 of the 122 victims in the county have died within the last month. And across the state, 320 people died from COVID-19 related complications in November alone. That's almost as many as the first 7 months of the pandemic. From March to October, 397 people died. 95% of all the deaths in the state were people over 50 years old, and most had underlying health conditions. Meanwhile, the CDC has issued recommendations for who should be the first in line to get the coronavirus vaccine. The agency wants to prioritize healthcare workers and residents of long-term care facilities like nursing homes. 2 vaccines are on track to become available by the end of the year, but it's expected to be several months before enough doses are available to meet the demand. The decision on who goes first will ultimately be up up to each individual state. The CDC is also planning changes to the length of a quarantine. They're expected to trim the time someone must stay home from 14 days to 7 to 10 days after exposure. Officials described the decision as data-driven and said it has been under review for weeks. Dr. Robert Redfield, the head of the CDC, informed the White House's coronavirus task force of the plan yesterday. Experts say this is helpful because people will be more likely to report their exposure without fear of missing 14 days of work. Montana's 2 U.S. senators are among a bipartisan group calling for tax breaks for craft breweries and distilleries. It's a growing business here in the Treasure State, and the senators want a permanent renewal of the Craft Beverage Modernization and Tax Reform Act. If it's not extended, craft brewers would see taxes double on their first 60,000 barrels produced. Senator Steve Daines says it's important for both Montana's agriculture and tourism industry to keep local breweries up and running. He and Senator Jon Tester co-sponsored the bill. Over in western Montana, officials with the U.S. Department of Justice and the Confederated Salish and Kootenai Tribe launched a new program that could be the blueprint for dealing with the nationwide missing and murdered Indigenous persons crisis. The Tribal Community Response Plan is a Montana spin on Savannah's Act and other federal measures. The difference is it takes into account how each individual tribe works in Montana and provides training to tribal government and law enforcement. Tribal leaders praised the plan, calling it culturally appropriate. Now they say it's time to get to work.
We have so many families who are suffering, and unfortunately we have to learn from them and what they experienced, and it's sad, it's heartbreaking. We think about Jermaine's family, Selena's, Hanny's, Sarah's, and there's so many others, and I hope we can just all keep those in our hearts and in the forefront as we do the work that we need to do and learn from the tragedies that they had to experience.
The tribe honored U.S. Attorney Kurt Olney with a quilt to thank him and his department for the work being done to solve the crisis.